Welcome back, class. As always, this is Marketing 1 and I'm your instructor, Mr. Woodington. Today's video lesson is designed to introduce you to the wonderful world of market research. Now quick, how many of you know what market research actually is? Haha, it's okay, Billy, you're not alone. Marketing research is the process and methods used to gather information, analyze it, and report findings related to marketing goods and services. In a nutshell, marketing research is when a company has a problem or an issue, seeks information to answer this problem or issue, at which point management decides whether or not to make appropriate changes or to keep the status quo. So this problem, what is it? How do we define it? Where does this problem come from? Johnny, do you have an idea? All right, I'm done messing with you, Johnny, I swear. The truth is this question could be anything. Perhaps a company wants to know which package design its customers prefer, or they're interested to hear reactions to their latest product offering. Either way, marketing research is here to help. Some common uses of marketing research are to determine attitudes, test product features, determine the market size and growth capabilities, learn about the competition, determine buying cycles, and finally the general public perception of the company and its offerings. So why is this stuff important? Why does it matter that we learn about marketing research? Well, for companies it's important because knowledge equals power. The more information a company has on the public's perception of the company itself and its products, the more likely they are to be able to improve upon those. These improvements will lead to higher sales, greater market share, what have you, and ultimately more money. Now for you, why is it important for you to understand marketing research? Well, you've heard me mention in class before that marketing is everywhere. The same goes with marketing research. Companies you interact with every day have marketing research techniques in place that you may not even be aware of. You ever think about all those loyalty cards you're offered? Maybe the My Panera? If you go to Best Buy, the Reward Zone? Yeah, those are marketing research right there. Those companies are using that information that you're providing for them on a free basis to improve upon their customer service, their product offerings, and whatnot. Now you, being aware of this, are going to be a more informed, more powerful consumer. Ultimately, that's what you want to be. You don't want to be some sucker getting ripped off. It's no good for anybody. Now that we understand what marketing research is, what it can be used for, and why it's important, it's time to follow the 5-step process it is. You heard me right. Five simple steps. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start with step 1, defining the problem. Step 1, defining the problem, is often viewed as the most difficult step in market research. The reason for this is because you need such a clear definition for what you're seeking to answer. There can be no room for ambiguity here. The reason for this is every company has a limited number of resources, particularly in a marketing research department. We can't just keep wasting time, effort, and money seeking an answer. If a question is too broad in scope, it will lead to all of 3 of these things being wasted. Good news is, though, if you do a good job here, step 1, making a clear definition of what you're seeking to answer, everything else is going to be that much easier. Now, once you have a clear definition of what you're seeking to answer, you can move on to step 2, obtaining the data. Step 2, obtaining the data, is where we start to gather the information needed to answer a question in step 1. Now, real quick, I want to give you a brief definition of what data is. In regards to marketing research, data refers to the facts, attitudes, or perceptions a consumer may have about a company or a particular offering. Data can be divided into 2 groups, primary data and secondary data. Let's give a quick overview about the differences between primary and secondary data.
Primary data is data that is being collected for the first time, specifically for the problem at hand. Secondary data is data that's been collected already, typically for another purpose. Although secondary data can be a great resource for information completing marketing research, because it is less expensive and less time-consuming than primary data, there are drawbacks. It is very difficult to find secondary data that will fit within the framework of your problem 100%. There are also issues of accuracy and possibly being outdated. Even if it saves you time and effort up front, data that is either inaccurate or outdated will ultimately cost your company much more.
There are several different methods that can be used to obtain data. But before a company starts just plucking data off the streets, it needs to determine one thing. Is it going to do this approach in-house or out-of-house? An in-house approach to marketing research refers to the company using its own employees. Out-of-house refers to hiring another firm to handle your marketing research responsibilities for you. Reasons a company may use an out-of-house approach are either they lack a marketing research department altogether, or perhaps the problem they are seeking to answer is just too large in scope for their department to handle. Now, once we determine whether it's in-house or out-of-house, there are three main methods that we can use to obtain this data. Number one is the survey, two is an observational method, and the third and final method that we can use is the experimental method. Let's go through these one by one. The survey is the most frequently used method for collecting data in market research. I mean, think about it. How often are you asked to participate in a brief survey following a business transaction? Whether it be at your favorite clothing outlet, maybe after a meal at a fast food restaurant, or simply after a phone call involving a business transaction. Companies are consistently seeking to get consumer feedback as soon as they can through a brief survey. Now, there are four main approaches when it comes to surveys. There's the in-person approach, there's the phone, there's also traditional mail, and finally, emerging technologies. All four of these have their advantages and disadvantages, and we're going to cover each briefly. When using the in-person survey, it is much easier to get responses than other approaches. People are much more apt in a face-to-face setting to give up a few moments of their time and give some real constructive feedback. However, a drawback of the in-person survey is the cost associated with it. Companies must make sure that their employees administering the survey are properly trained to maintain reliability and validity in the survey. An example of an in-person survey is the focus group. A focus group is a gathering of 6 to 12 people in which they discuss a company and/or its offering. Phone surveys are a classic approach to obtaining data. Not only are they quick to administer, but they're also much less expensive than other approaches. However, due to high cellular phone usage and the Do Not Call Registry Act of 2004, they're becoming increasingly more and more difficult to administer. Not to mention, sometimes if you do get through to somebody, it can be a little difficult. Let's take a look.
What a long day. Just can't wait to eat this tasty snack. I've been looking forward to this all day. God bless it, what now? I don't know this number. Yeah, this is Kenny Troy. A survey? Why would I want to take a survey? I just sat down to eat. I've had enough of you people. Always calling me, nagging me, calling. No, I don't want to take a survey. Goodbye.
I'd hate to be that guy on the other line. The next approach that we'd like to talk about when administering surveys is through the traditional mail. A great advantage the traditional mail has over other approaches is its relative low cost. Unfortunately, this comes with a very low response rate. I anticipate this to continue as people now tend to rely on online capabilities much more and only use their mail for select items. Let's take a look at how someone these days perceives what they might consider junk mail.
Let's see what treasures we have today. Bill. Birthday cards. Sweet! I love birthday cards.
Wow, ain't that the truth? The final approach we'd like to talk about today is the Internet and emerging technologies. Now, the Internet and emerging technologies refers to anything that we might use that's still evolving, still coming. It happens in the blink of an eye, day to day. Great advantage these have over other approaches is the real time in which we get the responses. As soon as you elicit a response in a survey, we can boom, send it up to the cloud, get it in our databases, we have the information in hand. Unfortunately, a problem that comes along with this is the limited scope we have. Not everybody is internet connected, not to mention emerging technologies kind of refer to what's in your budget. Let's take a look at a great example of emerging technologies in a restaurant setting.
Alright, no rush or anything, but use this whenever you're ready. And also just so you know, we have a new guest voice program, which is where you can just take this card and scan it with your phone. That way you can give us feedback of how your service was or anything you'd like to change. Just let them know that my name's Natalie.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah, you can also win up to $1,000 if you do it. You'll be entered in it.
$1,000?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah, you too. Have a great night. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Now that we've covered the survey method and its 4 different approaches, let's move on to the second method of obtaining data in market research, the observation method. Now, the observation method involves human or mechanical observation of what people actually do or what events take place during a buying or consumption situation. The information is processed by actually collecting what's going on, making observations. A disadvantage of this is the observer cannot measure attitudes or motivation. Let's take a quick peek and we'll explain what's going on in an example of the observation method.
Welcome to your everyday grocery store. Good citizens of the world buying goods to take home to their loved ones, not knowing that they're secretly being watched. And boom! Why, hello, Mr. Market Researcher. What are you doing over there? Just observing some people, what they're doing? Too bad you can't observe attitudes or motivation. But you know what? You sure are taking a lot of information. Oh, they're reading Us Weekly and buying Diet Cola? That's strange. Maybe we should send that up to the bigwigs so they can do something with that information. Heck, you do such a good job, they don't even know you're there. Goodbye.
Boy, that guy looked a little creepy. But I tell you what, I bet he was getting some really good marketing research done. The third and final method of collecting data that we'll talk about today is the experimental method. In this method, researchers change 1 or 2 variables while keeping all others constant to determine just exactly how customers perceive these changes. Now, a great advantage of the experimental method is you can provide useful data not found in other design forms, things that you would never get through a phone survey to say. However, due to its high cost and inaccuracy of responses, it's used very seldomly. A perfect example of the experimental method is when a company uses 2 or more packaging design changes. Step 3 of the marketing research process, or as I like to call it, the funnest step of all, is analyzing data. We just spent a great deal of time and effort obtaining all this data, gathering all this information. Now it's time to sit down, analyze, and interpret it. We're going to do this through advanced statistics and proven decision models. Additionally, technology is making this process largely easier through a process called data mining. Now, data mining is extracting new information from large amounts of data through the use of sophisticated computer technologies. Through this data mining process, market researchers are able to connect dots they never knew existed before and find out greater information than imagined. Once we complete analyzing the data, step 3, it's time to move on to step 4, recommendations. Welcome to step 4, recommendations. I wasn't quite sure you were going to make it through analyzing the data, but you pulled through. Way to go. Now, step 4 is all about recommending what our findings support. So far, we've clearly defined our problem, gone out and gathered the data necessary to answer our problem, and interpreted all that data to come up with some sort of solution. This is where we get to tell management what we think we should do. We're going to do this through a well-organized report. Now let's take an overview of what that report looks like and what it should consist of.
A research report is going to contain the following components: a title page, acknowledgments, table of contents, introduction, review of research information, the procedures used in the research, findings, recommendations, summary conclusions, appendices, and the bibliography.
Welcome to the home stretch, baby. I knew you'd make it. Now let's take a look and see what we've done already today. 1, we clearly defined our problem. 2, once we knew our problem, we went out and got a bunch of information, a bunch of data that's going to help us solve this puppy. Number 3, after that, what did we do? We analyzed it. We took all that data, analyzed it, interpreted it, made a little bit of sense out of it. After that, all we did was type up a small little report, complete with our recommendations. Now we're on to step number 5, applying the results, using those recommendations for good. Now here's some things that we're going to want to take into consideration. As we're reviewing the report, some questions we're going to want to ask ourselves was the research conclusive? Is there more research needed before we take a specific action? Is there any specific action that's calling out to us right now that we should take? Or should we just maintain the status quo? Now, if there is an action that is required, we're going to want to monitor any sort of change. We're going to want to know, was this worth our time, effort? Was it successful or not? If we do this, we're going to want to use some common parameters. Sales, profit, expenses, efficiency, these are all great things to keep an eye on to see if any specific change really helped us or not. Now, the beautiful thing about market research is it is everywhere around us, but additionally, it's continuous. By the time we end up seeing results and whether or not any specific action helped in this particular case, it's going to be time to apply some new marketing research and just keep this process going. That's the beautiful thing about it. It just keeps going like the circle of life. Really hope you've enjoyed your introduction to marketing research, and I can't wait till we dive a little bit further into it next class period. Cheerio.